So my intention, my mind thought I was going in one direction. My soul had me going in another. Now, if one latches on to the mind's desire in that moment, no, minimalism is the only answer. That austerity is the only thing that I can possibly do now, because there's been for me, it was maybe a stylistic copying of what I thought was a more enlightened or spiritual way to exist in the material world. If you latch onto that, then when the soul does start trying to take you towards your destiny, you will suffer because the ego is going to cling towards its old model. And the soul is going where it's going anyway, and nothing can stop it. So surrender really is about recognizing the futility of the mind and the ego's push to cling to things. Now, so we've been playing recovery mode. It was nice to recover from a manic soul retreat to jump into some really necessary work around here, cutting firewood. There's that old adage, before enlightenment, cut wood or carry water, chop wood. And after enlightenment, carry water, chop wood. Those tasks certainly don't go away just because we were on cloud nine, really enjoying the retreat. So yeah, it was good to get some big trees down, which will provide not just beautiful firewood in a couple of years' time, but there's also some potential for milling some of them into timber. So watch out for new furniture pieces next time you're out here. We also kept open some of the sight lines, which in 5 years since being out here, it's amazing how quickly eucalypts grow and just how much they close in the magnificent mountain views we've got. So yeah, we had a beautiful experience a couple of years ago where an entire tree came out and we thought, oh, it's quite tragic. We chopped it up, got a lot of firewood, and the thing's a massive, probably 5 or 6 meter high and round bush. So there is certainly no killing the eucalypts. They're a great tree in that when you cut them down, they shoot up lots of, they coppice, so they shoot up lots of fingers. And then those fingers you can take as polewood or firewood later down the track as well. So yeah, good to get the little sustainability thing going on here. We do have some availability for a member to join in April. So if any of the members watching in the review, which hopefully I'll get out by Thursday, or anyone that's listening and they do want to come out for a couple of days over Easter, please let us know. We've got a sold out retreat. Sherelle will be there, but we also, we can always use an extra hand, making sure things go smoothly in the background. So if you are coming out on that retreat, well, then it'll be awesome to have you out here as a student on the retreat. So it's great to see a few people dropping in pre-retreat, getting a little bit of a connection to the space before jumping in deep. On that, we've noticed over the last 5 or 6 months that as retreats are booking a little bit further in advance, that people are very, very excited and they want to book in and get started straight away. And for the last 2 years, we've been thinking about doing an online course of some description to support the meditative journey. And I've still got my little inner perfectionist streak, and there's always, a desire to make it bigger than Ben-Hur and get it to be some absolutely perfect thing, when the reality is that an okay solution to help people get started meditating is probably better than nothing, or better than waiting for the perfect solution in a year or two's time. So I have been at the computer for like 14 hours today, and the whip is being cracked internally. I really do want to have something ready, hopefully regarding just a basic meditation challenge for people who are new to the practice, for a 45-day challenge. That'll be hopefully ready in the next couple of days. Realistically, there's not much more to do for that. The next thing that we're looking at developing, or not looking, we are developing at the moment, is a follow-on online package to support people after the soul retreat predominantly. So that will include recap on the elements and different nature-based activities. So it'll bring together all of the knowledge that we share on the soul retreat. It'll also give you the meditation challenge and a bit of a tick list and just some resources to make the meditation even easier. And also some Hatha yoga video recordings. So that'll be the first time that we've gone into that space of recording some of the Hatha yoga to be able to put that there as a resource. You know, one thing about showing up on the last morning of the retreat where we do a bit of personal practice, it, you know, I know people definitely need a few more guided run-throughs regarding the Hatha yoga to really make it stick. So for those who will be joining on the soul retreat in a couple of weeks' time in April, we will have that larger package fully ready to go, you know, then, if not a couple of weeks before then. So any of the people, Amanda, such as yourself, if you were looking at, you know, wanting to get a refresher or jump back in with some of that stuff, that'll also be available for past attendees too. So super excited there. As I mentioned last week, we've also put together a Hatha yoga retreat for later in the year at the end of June. So that'll be a really great opportunity to just come and focus on the Hatha yoga for those that want to torture their body and to maybe remove some of the obstructions and help with the seated practice and cultivate that beautiful path. But yeah, we'll be looking at doing 2 by 2 hour workshops each day, and then a whole lot of time to digest, reflect, chill out, and just be in the space. So that'll be a very much content focused retreat rather than, I guess, the soul retreat, which is a little bit more of that kind of journey. So if you are looking at joining for the Hatha yoga retreat, please reach out and let us know. We do need to get a few numbers together to make it viable. So if you are eyeing it off, it would be really great to know that you are. Okay, that's enough admin. What will Rajni again? You know, we seem to cop. We've got Rishan, who's our lovely 16-year-old, and we line him up every Tuesday night to be babysitter for Tara so that Rajni can come and join and we can have a conversation. But Tara has the last couple of weeks been teething and then dealing with some vaccine stuff from just the normal childhood vaccines. I think have stirred some things up, that she had some jabs the other day. So it'll be me by my lonesome. Rajni, please unmute yourself if baby's not screaming and pipe in if there's something else. Also, I'm sitting close enough to be able to see the chat box today. So if you do have comments or observations, or you want me to speak to something specific as I'm talking, throw it in there and I'm happy to speak as best I can to that. So the thing that Rajni gestured towards maybe having a talk about was something that we've been going through quite personally over the last, oh God, all of our lives, but also in particular regarding doing what we do from this space. Now, for us, you know, we've had some very powerful experiences here at the ashram, and it really does feel like a home. Like it feels like an extension, more than a home, it feels like a part of us. In the same way that if you've spent time in a house for a number of years, it can really feel like it's a built manifestation of who you are. I first kind of cottoned onto this idea that the external world was a real mirror to the inner world when I was going through a spiritual awakening at the same time as doing a renovation of my apartment that I'd lived in for 10 years. So I don't know which one catalyzed the other, or if it was all of the forces coming together at once. But I can remember in a drunken rage it wasn't even like a proper hammer, it was like a plastic mallet, And I, in a drunken rage, not really a rage, but it was more like a kind of a disinhibited spur of motivation, decided to take a kitchen out without having done any design for what new kitchen was going to go in or how I was going to fix anything up. But I had some months off after I left the army, and I knew that the kitchen needed to be gutted. So that's where I started, and I just ripped it to shreds and proceeded to make a god-awful mess. It was a great deal of fun, but in hindsight, that was exactly the same time that I started going through a spiritual awakening, where all of these old bits of cheap, shitty joinery and chipboard and dodgy 70s kitchen inside of me were being renovated. I was being gutted from the inside out. And, you know, the bare structure was still kind of good, but, you know, there was some deep work that had to go in. We had to get back into some really deep layers of my being at that stage. And so for a good 6 to 8 month period, I went through quite a shift of consciousness as I was renovating that built environment that I'd spent 10 years in. And I wonder if others care to reflect upon their own journey of where their external environment has been and how that may or may not have mirrored the inner universe of what has been going on. So as I finally put the finishing touches on the very expensive renovation, planning to spend 10 years in that place, I built it and I put the energy in because I wanted it to be good for me for 10 years. I was like, at least 10 years I'll be in this place for sure, you know, and lo and behold, 6 months later, I happened upon the ashram. So and then moved out here on a whim. So it was interesting having gone and purchased all of like the expensive dishwasher and the expensive this and the expensive that and doing it the way that I wanted to do it, and, you know, making a mess of some jobs as well. But I had to let go. I had to let go of that sense of my renovated self and step into a new place. And so I proceeded to move out here, and this is prior to connecting with Rajni. And as I moved out here, maybe the built environment was giving me another message. I was renting the caretaker's residence. So the previous owners had still like 90% of their junk scattered around through the property in the sheds and everywhere. And someone else was renting the lodge. So I was kind of swinging around, just kind of quite directionless and lost when I first moved out here, trying to catch up with how to live in the country. And interestingly, that part of me that was able or is now able to receive guests was being managed by somebody else who were, to be honest, cheapskates. And the place that I was living was full of other people's crap still. So I began purging other people's stuff and did so for about 1.5 years, working upon the old energy and the old physical things that were here from the previous owners. And also had to wait out that process for that part of me, the lodge, to clear out of maybe unwelcome guests until we could really begin the process of bringing the energy back together. And so the first couple of years out here at Kailash, there was still a great deal of dealing with the other things. And then COVID hit and we had a community here. And so there was an accumulation of all manner of stuff that people had brought in and dumped, energetically speaking. And so again, when the community ended at the end of COVID and we started, well, when we became an ashram, we really did the work of cleansing that energy and recognizing that we had to keep the space pure and pure from a place of pure intention, pure orientation towards God, towards the soul, towards something bigger than mundane existence. And in the process of really going through a purification of the place, we began to do fire ceremonies dotted around kind of everywhere. We did some in the teepee. We did some at particular trees. And these fire ceremonies, for those who have got a very powerful, powerful capacity to blast old energy away and to really, really take the vibration of the physical environment quite high. And so then the final kind of gesture was to bring the fire ceremony indoors, which was, we thought we might melt the yurt, or that it might smoke the place out, but it actually works really, really well in the yurt. So, one day we will have a dedicated Yagyashala for fire ceremonies, but for the time being, the yurt has been a really powerful place for us to be sharing the traditional fire ceremony from. So the energy's been going up and up and up again. Where is all of this leading to? Well, that process of purification, the process of cleansing and clearing is not as straightforward as one might think. Part of it is the conscious game of, yes, I'm aware of the things that I need to work upon. The other part of it is that the soul, from an unconscious level, really does call forward these opportunities for you to go through the purification process, even though you might not necessarily understand it in the present moment. So, when I renovated my apartment, I thought, great, I cleared a whole shed full of junk, and I thought, I'm going to be a minimalist. I'm going to like whittle my possessions down to this minuscule amount of things, and then proceeded to move out to the country and now have more things, and like 100 times more things than I used to have. So my aspiration, my egoic intention to become a minimalist, it was like, yeah. You can't be a minimalist. You've got a facility to run. You're going to need stuff. You're going to need things. You're going to need, tools and vehicles and tractors and mowers and blankets and sheets and mats and all of the stuff, right? So my intention, my mind thought I was going in one direction. My soul had me going in another. Now, if one latches on to the mind's desire in that moment, no, minimalism is the only answer, that austerity is the only thing that I can possibly do now, because there's been for me, it was maybe a stylistic copying of what I thought was a more enlightened or spiritual way to exist in the material world. If you latch onto that, then when the soul does start trying to take you towards your destiny, you will suffer, because the ego is going to cling towards its old model. And the soul is going where it's going anyway, and nothing can stop it. So surrender really is about recognizing the futility of the mind and the ego's push to cling to things. Now, I've said this before, but it's such a beautiful poetic image that came to me from one of the meditators when I was in the ashrams in India. And I was in Dandi Ashram, and this old timer who's been around a while, he just spent a couple of weeks at the ashram. He had a very, very peaceful energy, very peaceful state. And he gave the analogy of, you're riding on the train, you get onto the train carrying a few suitcases, and you get to the luggage compartment. Now, if you stood there on the train carrying the suitcases, flexing your arms or holding the suitcase above your head, other people on the train who know that the nature of the train is to stay on the tracks and go to the destination eventually would probably give you a nudge and go, you can put the suitcase down. You don't need to carry it because the train's going there anyway. And if you're staunchly identified with your role as carrying those bloody big heavy suitcases, if you're addicted to the work, you'll hold them over your head and deny the fact that you're on a train. No. I had to carry the suitcase to the train. That worked for me, and it was really useful. I'm going to keep holding on to them because I just don't know where this is going next. And So, you know, it's a bit of an insane position to be holding a suitcase on a moving train. And so the act of surrender is that when you meet somebody in your life who tells you that, like, you can put the thing down and just let it rest because the train's going where it's going anyway, that's really, really what the Himalayan meditation practice is about. It isn't a doing, it's a letting go. It's a surrendering of effort. And it can be very, very, very confronting because the holding onto the bags was a useful strategy. It worked for a very, very long time. In fact, it worked the whole way. If you walked from your house all the way to the train station, it worked. It was a good strategy. No one's denying that you didn't have to carry the suitcase, right? But upon recognition or realization of the soul, self-realization, once that realization begins to set in, the suitcase can be put down. It can be picked up and you can, like, put it on your back and do some squats and stay fit if you want. But also, the goal of the self-realized or upon self-realization, the intention is to recognize when you are beginning to pick the suitcase up again in order to let it go back down. It's bloody difficult. It's bloody difficult because the layers of our being that have been conditioned to love, work, and holding are very confronted by the notion that there may be a destiny or a larger force calling us forward. And rather than blast out into the big kind of metaphysical God realm, I really like just bringing my own attention towards the manifest physical reality that we experience. The sun holds us, whether or not the earth wants to pretend like it's the center of the cosmos or not. We know that earth orbits the sun. The bigger thing holds the little thing. That's its nature. So the destiny, in a sense too, the earth is on that train track. The sun is held by a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. So something so dense that light itself cannot even escape, right? And that is what holds the spiral of the Milky Way. What holds that? I'm sure there's some supercluster or a larger galactic thing. I don't know what the next big thing is. But if you take your awareness through these physical planes of things that hold us, we see that those patterns play out whether or not we're conscious of them or not. I grew up in a world that was held by the sun, even if my awareness had yet to realize that. And so when someone comes along and says, hey, you're carrying this big thing called a suitcase full of suffering over your head and you can put it down, they may well just be somebody who has themselves realized that the sun is bigger than the earth and it holds us all. Now, it's an unpopular position in today's society. There aren't a huge amount of people who are willing to embody fully the letting go of one's suffering to surrender to something greater. This pattern, the first, and what I mean by pattern is it's a dynamic that plays out at one scale once and then iterates or repeats potentially at larger scales, but it's something that occurs on multiple layers of analysis. The surrendering of one's suffering to maybe one's positive virtue, one's capacity for forgiveness and love might be like a microcosm of the larger force of surrendering to God or the Almighty or something like that. And so we play out this dance of big thing and little thing everywhere. And when you begin to see that kind of primal energy and that primal relationship and pattern play out, you see what Well, it occurs in more places than you may have considered. Regarding being a space, an ashram, we choose consciously to be held by the larger energy of consciousness, which is all pervasive and synonymous for us with God. So that means that we ourselves in the space are children. We're held. We are the small thing. But then when other people come to the space, we have a responsibility to be the upholders of the bigger thing here, which might be a continuity of the ashram over time. So we have to, Rajni and I have to be the kind of, for want of a better term, the defenders of the rules and the structure of the ashram. So the reason we do that is to honor and acknowledge that we want this to be bigger than any one individual so that it can hold people when they come here. Now, it's quite interesting when we experience people who, when they come to the space, they themselves want to be the supermassive black hole at the center of the cosmos. And well, it's not the space for that person to indulge that, not outwardly at least. The ashram doesn't revolve around the individual, it revolves around consciousness. And so, you know, Rajni and I have had some interesting encounters over the last couple of days, recognizing that we've got a duty to preserve that long-term vision of the ashram so that when people come here in a state of distress, change, transformation, that the larger energy of the space can hold them in orbit too, the way that it holds us as children. And it can mean that those people who come here with their own agenda and their own kind of desires and wants can get a little bit of an abrasive reflection of what it's like to actually be held by something bigger. What I've learned in my relationship since sort of, you know, renovating my apartment right through to now really renovating and putting the finishing touches, I believe, in the layers of my consciousness. I'm not going into so much outer renovation right now. It's the renovation and the detailed carpentry of the thoughts and the mind structure. What I've experienced is that this progression from resisting being held to actually loving being held and being supported is it elicits a sense of peace that is beyond joy and it's beyond sorrow. It's a sense of stability and security inside, knowing that the force that gave rise to this life is benevolent and supportive and conducive to my human flourishing. I don't need to fight to survive. Now, the moon is about to enter into, it just has entered actually into the new phase. So it's a very empty time. It's a time where we don't practice so much with the Hatha yoga in a strong way. So during this transition for the next 20 hours or so, definitely be cautious not to go and do anything to that's going to elicit a sense of reactivity or surprise, or don't do anything dangerous. I don't know if people do dangerous things anyway, but it's a good time to be cautious and restful. So I hope there was something in there for you tonight. I mean, I certainly enjoyed reflecting about the renovations that have gone here and just exactly why we are passionate about preserving the energy of the ashram, not for mine and Rajni's personal benefit, but for the benefit of what this place is becoming every day and what it can be for other people in their life when they need a safe harbor in the stormy seas of life. So it would be a joy to see you back out here in person, or again back online, or hopefully in the next week or so subscribing to one of our online offerings, which we will plaster all over our socials, I think, if and when we get it done. So keep your ears to the ground and your eyes open. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's always a joy to see people coming in for the live version and enjoy and have a lovely meditation. For those that are new, we've got some people who are brand new to the practice tonight, which is really exciting. I will guide the intro. There is not much more to do other than to say it is safe to put the suitcase down. I don't know what's in your suitcase. I don't know what you've been carrying or how long you've been carrying it. I carry shit around all the time. This meditation is just one place where you put whatever comes up down. That's it. You just let go of it and it will fall out of your hand. Gravity will take care of that suitcase, and the train, your soul, will get you to that destination. So the awareness will be brought to the top of the head, and then the rest is up to the inner feeling of surrender to one's own soul. The rest, in terms of the meditation, we will cover on the retreat. So I'm going to grab a bowl and you can get comfortable for your seat. And for those new to the session, we finish with 3 dings. Hopefully the microphone works, but I will mute during the sound, and then 3 dings and just a silent goodbye for those who do want to stay meditating or go off to bed. So have a lovely meditation and we'll see you next week. Okay, so taking a comfortable seat and allowing your eyes to gently close. Allowing your awareness, your body, your mind to settle, resting without effort. And taking the right hand and placing the palm on the top of the head. And gently press in 3 clockwise circles. And keep your awareness on the top of the head. And then gently taking the right hand back to the knee. If you wish to say 3 times internally after me, the soul mantra. I am a holy soul. I am a pure soul. I am a holy soul. I am a pure soul. I am a holy soul. I am a pure soul.